Hello, everyone. Ahambo Chamaka Ipeze. My name is Chamaka Ipeze, and welcome to Umu Nne'm podcast. Umu Nne'm, standing for all of my mother's children. And this is a podcast, a visual podcast, but above all, a healing space. Really, a cultural attempt at a cultural shift, above all. What I'm here to do is talk about the things that are never talked about publicly. What I'm here to do is give platforms and spaces for Igbo girls and women from across the diaspora, including the continent, of course, for them to talk about what they think is most important, the topics we need to bring among each other, the things that are hurting them that we're living in silence through. So, also, it's very early, but putting out there, if you're somebody who feels like there's a topic that you really care about, whether it's language, whether it's being adult, whether it's sexual assault in the culture, whether it's we can talk endlessly about the sexism that's part of the context that even exists, and the patriarchy, but whatever it may be, if you're interested in coming here as a guest, let me know. I have to do some vetting, so I may not say yes, to be fair, but we start somewhere. So Umu Nne'm podcast, visual podcast. What is this for and why is it here? This is really all completely inspired by my story. This is all completely inspired by the stagnancy I feel in the culture as someone who is in the United States, and feel as if that there's such profound stagnancy in how we are growing and from the diaspora within the culture, how we're contributing to the culture. And one of the things that I know, no matter where you are in Igbo culture or community, is that we don't have enough spaces for women healing and support. It's just that simple. We don't have enough spaces for women healing and support. And I focus on Igbo girls in particular because that's what I know. That's what I know. Because I left Nigeria so young, like I know that us Nigerian women, even African women, we're really on the same page. Of course I have friends, different African backgrounds. So anyone Black, anyone African who feels like they relate to this, and I mean, outside of there too, but anyone Black, anyone African, anyone Nigerian who feel like they relate to this, like I'm happy that you do. But Igbo culture is really what I know, and it's specifically the group that I wanted to influence. This podcast is not just about healing, it's about a cultural movement. It's about creating a cultural movement where people, Igbo women, even Igbo men who may listen, Igbo girls, get to see and process themselves more clearly. Because those of us who are gone a little bit more ahead are actively looking back, actively looking forward, and thinking about how we can shape the culture. Because we're a cultural people. We are so defined by our cultural pillars. So to really create change in our community, we have to have ways to influence the culture. And luckily for us, we live in a generation of social media where I can do these things. I can get on YouTube, I can do a recording, and I can really create a space for all of us to collaboratively and collectively influence the culture. But the way I want to influence the culture is infusing more love, more love, more love, more healing, more growth, ending the cycles of stagnancy internally, ending the cycles of self-sacrifice over tradition, ending the cycles of abuse and self-abuse. I feel as if it's been associated certain types of women empowerment with westernization or losing track of tradition. But as someone very close to me recently said, cultures die off when they're not able to evolve. We need to be able to evolve. I remember when I was an undergrad at Howard University and I was at an African Student Association meeting, and it was a mental health meeting. And people were talking about, the different African cultures, how we don't have conversations about mental health. We don't talk about these things. And I said, for all those who are Igbo there, because Nigerians always go deep in spaces. I said, for all of us who are Nigerian, but Igbo in particular, is there a word for depression in our culture? Is there a word for depression in our culture? Because if the word doesn't even exist in our language, that means the concept as a communally acknowledged truth and reality does not exist. It does not exist. And just because a concept doesn't exist in a language, it doesn't mean that concept is not existing in the lived experience of a person or a people. So we need these conversations, and we need to create language the words in our culture, part of cultural influence. We need to create the words in our culture to match the expansiveness of what it means to be Igbo now. We have to take a charge to expand our language and our culture, because our language, one reason why our language is so important is because it's an anthropological and historical archive of us as a people. The proverbs, what they relate to, the animals that they use, the context that they use, when they talk about different seasons, different family structures to communicate a wisdom, that is an archive. That is a historical archive of our people, who we've been, right? And so what happens when the language of who we've been no longer matches the expansiveness of who we are and who we need to be to survive? Igbo is limitless. Yes, I was going to say limitlessness. That's not right. Sorry, brain fog, but it's limitless. We decide what we do with the language. We decide what we do with the culture. And this space is centered that Igbo women in particular are deciding what we do with the culture, what we do with the language, you know? So let me bring myself back together, but this is about a cultural movement. This is about a cultural movement where we are living on our own terms more, and how we live in the culture, how we live in community, how we care for ourselves, how we heal ourselves, and how we evolve as a community. Because we have work to do. We have work to do to heal how we love in the culture. We have work to do to heal how we define the culture. We have work to do to heal how we identify what it means to be an Igbo girl or woman in the culture. That one is part of my motivation for this space. What does it mean to be an Igbo girl or woman? And can you define that outside of the rituals? Can you define that outside of the rituals? Because at some point, for our culture to evolve and heal and to really bring in all of the brilliance that we have diasporically and continentally, we have to have the ability to define ourselves in a way that gives space for change. It cannot be defined by the same ritualistic, simple things. And I think those things matter. I'm not trying to minimize our traditions at all, especially in context of colonization, the ways that so much of it is lost and undermined or not respected. Even the people who are the strongest traditionalists are seen as, I don't know, people who are just practicing negative witchcraft or all of these type of things, when we should be having a space where it's also deeply respected, where we can have nuance. If the only reason why you fear something is because you don't understand it, then it's worth sitting in the validity of your conviction towards certain views, So to bring it back to this motivation, it was really that I felt like, as an Igbo girl who moved to the United States, then was influenced, being raised by the United States, I felt so lost in my identity at certain times, mainly because, I came in speaking fluent Owere Igbo. I came in as that type of Igbo girl, right? And the sensibilities and everything of an Igbo girl. But, of course, no one here understands that. So all the things of me that I needed validated to continue cannot continue, because it's not enough that's just happening at home. It's not enough of, hearing Igbo at home, or Igbo culture is at home. We need, as kids, every part of society to line up with what's at home for our identity to really be solidified in certain ways. And, and maybe that's not everyone, but that was my truth. And I'm okay if there's variation in that. But that's my truth, and that's the truth I see for a lot of people. So within it's compounded. Let me add the layers. Very difficult relationship with my mother. I love her. I know one day you'll see this one day, but very difficult relationship with my mother. That plays a huge role as an Igbo girl in the United States, because Igbo girlhood became synonymous with obedience. And so if I had any issues with the things that was being inflicted upon me, and I push back, and in my pushing back, my Igbohood is being invalidated, because now I'm being seen as westernized. Now I'm being seen as X, Y, and Z. When an Igbo girl might be doing the same exact thing in Nigeria without any Western influence, they're just pushing back because it's painful. They're pushing back because it's unfair. They're pushing back because it's traumatizing, whatever it may be. But in my context, anytime I'm pushing back, it was used as a way to invalidate me as an Igbo girl, because what was being communicated to me that Igbo girlhood is obedience. That's what it is. It's obedience. My personhood doesn't matter. My personal opinions doesn't matter. The ways that, that I also feel convicted, I'm not worthy of development, because the only development that I should be subscribing myself to is obedience. Now, by all means, you know what I mean? Elders understand and see things that we cannot see as young children. So it's not to say that there are things that you'll naturally not like when you're a kid and grow up and really see the value of it and where they were trying to come from. This is a space of nuance. It doesn't have to be all either or. Simultaneously, there are also a lot of things that we deserved way more protection, nurturance, even hand-holding through it. And we were treated like young adults at 8 years old, 11 years old, 14 years old, 17. That one, you're gone. Go, you gotta leave the house, do what you want. You know what I mean? I don't mean do what you want, but I mean like you're still in the house, but there's no responsibility that they can't put under you at that point, kind of thing. And when Igbo girlhood, I think this is African girlhood too, to be very honest, when Igbo girlhood is defined by obedience, and for me, I'm in the United States, and I have options of concepts to identify with. I have options, I have different things to compare to, and I do not particularly agree to something. Maybe I agree to what is attempted to be taught, but I don't agree with the way it's being taught to me. It's too abusive, it's too harsh. Then there I am seen as, again, being less Igbo because I'm fighting back. And then as a result of that, as a result of the rigidity of my caretaker, if my caretaker said, this is the only way I'm willing to teach you this, then there's certain things I did not learn. And then by the time I'm a young woman, I'm a young adult, now I realize that I'm unable to continue and carry the culture in ways I may not even realize as much. And now in my adulthood, I'm picking up the pieces, which I don't mind at this point. I've fully accepted the pieces I'm picking up. And at the same time, there's space to also say that I should have been handled differently, that we should have been handled differently, that there was more than one way to teach us what it means to be an Igbo woman. And I firmly believe that if you are a parent, you must be open-minded, because you have to have an element of being willing to relearn or rethink what you have held close to your heart, because your child is showing you there's maybe a better way to go about that thing. But our cultures, that's not guaranteed at all. I think it's actually very few parents who have that fundamental open-mindedness and ability to really be adaptable in how and who their child becomes. And overall, what it also does is when our girlhood is so defined by obedience, what it also communicates is that our authentic self is not accepted. We are not accepted as we are. And what happens to children who do not feel accepted? They don't feel loved. So now on top of that, we're growing up with worthiness wounds. We don't feel fundamentally worthy because everything about the love given to us is conditional. You must meet these metrics. You must make me happy. I must approve of you for me to love you. Eek. That one goes super deep in our culture. I must approve of you for me to love you. And when that is how you were raised, when that is the type of love that you were raised, that's an unsafe love. Don't get me wrong. I believe in, loving discipline and accountability. But when a child fundamentally knows that there are things that they can do that make their parent fundamentally love them less and give them less, we are walking around with these deep unworthiness wounds as individuals. And this is anywhere in the diaspora with us as individuals, and all of the ways that destroys us silently as we get older. It destroys us in how we navigate friendship and love, or the fact that we never even just get to know each other. We live our entire lives playing a role. We're never just adeze. We are the caregiver. We are the supporter. We are the sister people depend on. For me, I've had to do so much work to learn how to not be a role and to be an individual. And don't get me wrong, I know that there's, especially in family dynamics, that I have to play a role. I get that. I'm okay with that. But the fact that I don't know myself outside of a role affirms the sense that I don't have worth outside of playing a role. I don't have worth outside of being a consistent source of giving a certain thing, no matter the cost that it has on me. And this is part of my inspiration for creating a space like this. How do I help Igbo girls and women develop their sense of worth? How do I help Igbo girls and women self-identify, be okay with the ways that the culture won't accept them because of their convictions? Be okay with the ways that the culture won't accept them because of their differences. How, for a community that is so big on belonging, as we should be, as anybody is, any human being is, but we're so big on belonging. We're so big on being accepted because whether we know it or not, we're all raised on conditional love in some way. How do I help my community, my sisters, young and older, be comfortable with the ways that they are othered, be comfortable with the ways that they don't fit in, be comfortable with the ways that their path, just circumstances of your life, like just because, like just where you were born, just where you happen to be. How do we come to accept ourselves and still view ourselves as Igbo, but still have positionality and acceptance of those who have a stronger skill set, capacity to carry on traditions in the culture? I'm okay with saying I'm 100% an Igbo woman, and I'm also very defined by African American culture, which I love dearly. And also, I'm okay with being humbled and accept that there are Igbo women who have stronger Igbo than me, who maybe certain dishes they can cook better than me, or for some people, they don't know how to cook any Igbo dishes yet, but it's like how to be okay with what you are and also accept other people in the culture having more skills, more capacity, more alignment with the traditional definition of who we are, That's the purpose of this. It's how to stand in your body, how to believe in your enoughness, how to belong without living in constant state of need of external validation, which I want to do a quick shout out, the timing, because I'm in an Igbo learning group chat started by Igbo podcast. So shout out to Ifanaya. She's just such a trailblazer in the community. I hope she sees this. I have so much love for her, and I always try to communicate it. But someone had just brought up, an Igbo woman had just brought up, just kind of her pain around this sense of belonging, especially context of language and everything. And it was such a beautiful conversation. But these are conversations that we need to be having out loud. And I think the last thing is, something about me is I do social emotional development work professionally, and I also do healing work, spiritual healing work. And I just genuinely just care about how we are developing as a people and how we're passing that on generationally. So I hope that this podcast also gives people the reflections, the skill sets that they need to know how to pour into themselves and figure things out themselves. And, maybe this will even turn into a community, a group chat or something like that. Who knows where it'll go, but I hope it's so. Even this is worn, this dress is from an Igbo woman's collection. It was intentional, unintentional, but when I put two and two together, I said, yes, this makes sense to the first episode. So I'll put the link down for the brand of this, if you want to look at it and see more. But yeah, what should you guys accept moving forward? What do you guys expect from me? One, guess. You will be expecting Igbo girls and women. Again, if you see yourself and you say, I need to be honest, I have something I want to talk about or share, please, I welcome you. Again, I have to vet people. I have to do my due diligence, but I welcome you. And I'm big on intergenerational conversations. I wish that I got more exposure to how different Igbo women think growing up. This is another big motivation for this podcast, just exposing us to each other. Literally just exposing us to each other, how we really think, the things that we care about, really exposing us to the diversity of who we are as Igbo women, because I think way too often we behave the same at public events with each other, at parties and stuff. We behave like we're all the same, but we're not all the same. We're different. And I think that's important also for our sense of comfort and validation in our differences, seeing that. But I'll be bringing that on. So one thing about me, I'm a big nerd. I love to read. I love reading. I do. And I love nonfiction. Way more than fiction. So I'll also be having some episodes where I talk about books by Igbo authors, but specifically historical books. I have a few already. So historical books by Igbo women authors. Sorry, let me be specific. Igbo women authors talking about our history, talking about our development, talking about the roles that we played in the war, pre-war and colonialism, all of those things. So expect that. That will be part of the conversation. Definitely expect conversation on spirituality. Spirituality. Spirituality would be one. Again, guests that will talk about different topics that they care about. And I think that's probably a good summary of it. Again, this is my first time doing this, so bear with me. I'm going to enjoy at least doing different looks and makeup. You'll see, you know us, so that will be fun. And thank you so much. Please share, please share around. I really mean is I want this to influence the culture, influence individuals, and bring awareness, empowerment, centering us as Igbo girls and women. And so, yes, thank you so much for joining. Again, my name is Chamaka Ipeze. I do not have social media. I'll warn you, I only have Substack writing, but I don't have social media, so just be YouTube, at least for now. Oh, also, I'll put in the description, if you want to contact me, you can, it's Umu Nne'm podcast at gmail.com. I'll also put in the description on at the bottom of the thing. So for those who want to contact me, even if you want to just say like your thoughts, I welcome thoughts. Maybe you want to contribute, but you don't want to be a guest and you just want to like share something and have me read it, I would happily do that. So please, I welcome thoughts. I welcome responses. And again, if you want to share, they're not Igbo, but they're Nigerian. They feel like they can relate to this. They're not Igbo, but they're African. Feel like they can relate to this. Please do. And I will end it there. Thank you. Bye.